All right, everyone, we are on to section 2 of the podcast. We're talking about online dating. That's right. So let's talk about this stat right here. The Pew Research Center reports that 3 in 10 adults use dating apps. 45% of 18 to 29-year-olds say they have used a dating app. And 45% of all users report frustration from using the apps. Now, let me be very clear. In the beginning, I'm not anti-dating apps. I have heard stories where it works out. I think they're very rare. But I kind of want to dive into these stats because I think they're interesting. You know, I think like you talk about men in the dating market, and it's kind of a weird world out there. I'm off the market, thank God. But, you know, I understand a lot of guys are having issues with it. I get it. But the question is, like, do these stats actually have any important messages to send to us as men? So 45%, I'll harp on that number, 45% of all users reported frustration from using dating apps, according to the Pew Research Center. Why is that? Well, my guess would be that first off, with the dating apps that are out there, you know, a lot of people do this, like you've heard of phishing before, right? It's like this idea that you're going to put fake pictures of yourself or like super filtered pictures of yourself on your profile and make yourself look like way more attractive than you are physically. And obviously the attraction is a amalgam of a lot of things, but or just you can very easily lie about yourself on dating platforms. So you show up to the date and you're like, what the you said that you were a marine biologist and you work at McDonald's? Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of craziness that can happen on that front. That could probably lead to that 45% saying they're frustrated. But here's the thing I think that is like the number one reason that people report frustration with dating apps is because it's so hard to come from two completely different communities or lack of communities even and come together and then have enough commonality to lead a life together, to have a great relationship together. And this is something that has changed a lot recently. Like I would say from the year 2000, I think people have become much more isolated and they aren't part of these communities. And so it's hard to find people that share the same values or beliefs that you do. Now, it used to be like circa 2000 and before that everybody would kind of have their maybe super tight-knit or even loose communities, and then you would find somebody in that community. And because you both were part of that community, you would have shared commonalities. You would have shared beliefs and values and thoughts about the world and how you want to approach life. And then, you know, you sit down to coffee and you're like, oh, damn, you're really awesome. And you're like, oh, you're really awesome. And it's like, oh, you know these people? I know these people because we're part of the same community. And, you know, you can build this bond that's really strong, and you start from the base level with the same beliefs and thoughts and ideas about life. And one day you could get married and you could live the rest of your life together happily because you started from the same place and you guys are working towards goals together. That all changes when you are from a very fragmented or isolated or non-existent community. Because, you know, like especially like politically things have gotten crazy. But, you know, you come from a completely different community and it's like, well, we agree on like these 2 big things, but these other 7 big things we really are at odds on. And so, you know, I like you, but I don't think this is going to work. And then that probably happens to tons of people. And then there's stories all over the place on the internet about this, where it's like, yeah, it's like everything was good until I found out this about you or that about you. And so those things used to be filtered out by the community you were in. You know, I was lucky enough, like in my church community, like everybody had a lot of the same beliefs. There was differences in some things, but for the most part, because we follow the same faith and same religion, well, we all kind of have the same base level of beliefs. And because there's a lot of lack of community in the world today, a lot of people don't have the same beliefs. You know, they don't start from that same place. And so I think it's a lot harder to find people that align with you. Not impossible. Like I said, there are cases where dating apps have worked. But I think it's kind of a sad reflection for like probably a lot of men. It's like if you're not part of a community, it's probably going to be hard to find someone that you could live the rest of your life with. And it's sad, but like, I guess to call it is be like, start a community, make a better community, and become a part of it. And then, keep your eyes open, I guess, is what I would say. That would be my advice. But it's just an interesting thing about the state of the world. It's like people are so isolated. They get on these dating apps. They meet. And then they say, wow, you're so different than I am. This isn't going to work. And that stems from them not coming from the same place as far as their backgrounds, or what their families believed in, or what their religions were, or all these other aspects of a person's life. They're at crazy odds with one another, and so it doesn't work out. So I think that's probably a big reason why men and women are having a lot of frustration with these dating apps. So my advice is, do your best to be part of a community and then get to know people. I think that's the best way to go about it. But I'm not arguing against dating apps. I just thought it was really interesting. 45% of people reported frustration with dating apps. So, anyways, that's all I have to say about the topic, or the stat part of the podcast. Was that isn't that weird? And maybe it's a call for, I've said it before, but like men to create better communities, stronger communities where people they're attracted to the communities and they come to them, and then all of a sudden, you guys have started to have a bunch of shared commonalities. I think religion in a lot of ways does that for a lot of guys, but I'm not trying to convert you with this podcast. Yeah, okay, that's all I have to say on that matter. I hope you enjoyed.